I'm Neil Rosser. I'm here with Simon Callow. Now, Simon, when I first met you, what seems like 4 years ago, actually 4 days ago, you brandished a lovely copy, a lovely hardbound copy of Down There on a Visit. So
Yes.
You've obviously been a fan of Christopher Isherwood for a while.
Oh, really? From my earliest years of what you might call adult reading, not in the sense of...
I understand what you mean.
in the sense of... I fell in love with Isherwood's work at a very early age. Obviously, Goodbye to Berlin and Mr. Norris Changes Trains and those kind of things. But I just found there's something inside Isherwood which is... There's this kind of constant questing thing, as if he's trying to grasp some sort of truth beyond the surface of what he's describing in quite religious terms, actually. And as I was quite a religious boy, grew up as a Catholic, I was drawn to that aspect of it. And, of course, the homosexuality, which when you're, a young gay chap, you are awfully keen to see some reflection of your own desires and expectations of life. But I have to say that Isherwood's prose, not to sound too sort of poncy about it, but Isherwood's prose is a miraculous thing. And even as an aspiring writer, that's what I wanted to be when I was a boy. I thought, well, if I could create and compose sentences like this, that's my goal. And Down There on a Visit came out, I think, in 1962.
Indeed.
And I got my copy of it in 1964 or something like that. So I was 15. It is the most astonishing book, even in Isherwood's output. It covers an enormous range of aspiration and historical experience and so on in a very, very direct and concise way. It's been a great joy reading it out loud because, of course, there you really do come in touch with this extraordinary kind of elastically, like the springs as in a car, the springs are kind of wonderfully embedded in it, and it has a wonderful lightness, a great readability, a forward movement, and all of that. And here he deals, I think, perhaps more profoundly than he does in any other of his books, with pretty existential questions.
Indeed.
And especially questions of identity in his own case. He's always challenging himself as to whether he's really being authentic, real, true, whatever. I think he was haunted by that all right to the day he died.
He approaches those religious aspects via sex, drugs, drink, orgies. I mean, everything's in there. I mean,
yes.
The world is in there, in a way.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's very candid. I mean,
Yes.
he is the central character in all of his novels, really. This one's completely open about it. Basically, Isherwood himself, to a degree which is quite unusual among novelists, is the subject or the protagonist of all of his novels. And this, I think, may be the fullest account of his relationship with himself that any of his books offer. Maybe a single man in a very different world and a very much older Isherwood, a single man similarly engages with who he is. That seems to be the big question that he asks through all of his books, is who am I looking on at these events? Who is the camera that he describes himself as being in the early books?
And he veers, doesn't he, between ego and humility.
Yeah.
There's no set Christopher Isherwood. He seems to be quite elastic, the word you used.
Yes.
So he was very much a role model for you, the way you described him?
Well, I suppose so, yes, in a way. I mean, the actual shape of his life wouldn't ever be the shape of my life. The immigration to America, for example, I'd never been tempted by that. But, of course, partly that was to do with sexual freedom, and that's partly what had taken him to Berlin anyway.
He's that wonderful part of the book in the way he's told not to go there under any circumstances, and he says, the place I really must get to is Berlin, and stay there a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And do you know Berlin? I mean, it is...
I know Berlin well.
You do?
I know it very well. I've known it for quite a long time, actually. I made a film, I acted in a film there and spent, therefore, some time in the city. I've always been very fascinated by it for historical reasons and so on. But then my husband is half German, and his mother still lives there, so we go and see her, and I visit Berlin as often as I possibly can. And it is absolutely unique city. There's nothing quite to compare with it. It's not by any means the most beautiful city in the world, certainly not after the Second World War. But they didn't try to reconstruct themselves in the way that Munich did, where Munich has sort of rebuilt itself completely, and they sort of try to ideally forget that there ever was a war. You can never forget that there was a war in Berlin. And oddly enough, I was reading a book by Wyndham Lewis, quite unexpected book that I'd come across years ago, and I never even read it, but it's about Hitler. Wyndham Lewis was in Berlin at exactly the same time that Isherwood was, and he describes a sort of madness in the city and the rising Nazis and all the rest of it. But it's such a lurid, sort of over the top, I don't really quite believe it. Whereas with Isherwood's sense of Berlin is immense. Everybody knows that Berlin was a place for sexual exiles, unparalleled on the globe. There was just the place to go. If you wanted to explore your sexuality, go to Berlin, because it was all there, on tap, all day long.
So have you learnt German in the course of your life?
No, I haven't, I'm afraid. I've failed. I've directed operas in German, and so I speak operatic German quite well. I don't say Auf Wiedersehen, I say Leb wohl, as Wotan does in The Ring. No, I don't speak German, although in fact some of my family are German. My maternal grandmother had the name Fleus, F-L-E-U-S-S, and her grandfather had come to England from Düsseldorf.
Because in the course of this book that you've been reading down there on a visit, you've obviously had to come up against some foreign words, and most of those foreign words have been German, which obviously you seem to have taken in your stride.
Yeah, no, I've always been quite good at cheating like that. But German, I've heard a lot of German. I've listened to an awful lot of Lieder and many, many, many operas in German and so on. So, I wrote a play about Wagner, a one-man play about Wagner, and wrote a biography of him. So I have been immersed in that aspect of German culture very fully.
I must say, Parsifal is my number one opera. Of all the whole lot.
Astonishing.
It is astonishing. And coming to you, you've done everything, haven't you? You mentioned there you directed operas. I didn't know you directed operas in German. You've directed acting in things, television, film, radio. Is there anything you haven't done or anything you want to do still?
I'd like to do it all again, better. Much better. Yes. Because if one keeps, as I have done, I think, in my career a lot, I keep doing things for the first time, things that I've never done before. I wish I'd stayed sometimes a bit longer in those genres and really developed complete expertise. But I'm not at all ashamed of my career as a director of opera. I must have directed about 12 of them, and many of them German in origin, Così fan tutte, of course, not being written in German, but composed and written by Austrians, and Die Fledermaus, that sort of Viennese connection has somehow loomed around.
And you played Emmanuel Schikaneder, didn't you?
I played Schikaneder.
In the film of Amadeus.
Wonderful, wonderful, interesting human being. And when we were making the film, Lindsay Anderson, who was a great friend of Mirek Ondřiček, who was the cinematographer, came onto the set, and he said to me, what are you doing in this? And I said, I'm playing Emmanuel Schikaneder. And he said, who's that? And I described Emmanuel Schikaneder's
Magic Flute.
Simply extraordinary career. And he said, they should make me a film about Schikaneder, not about Mozart. Because he was an extraordinary man who sort of finally went round the bend while he was still running his theatre. Well, they knew he was going slightly mad when he imported 4 elephants into a production on this rather small stage
Good for him.
The theatre that he ran. Yes.
Oh, how marvellous. Yes, of course, he was the impresario who put on the Magic Flute. Yes.
Yeah, a great friend of Mozart's, and but also the first Hamlet in German. So he was a formidable and very, very interesting man.
Yes, indeed.
I've directed Magic Flute, so I've got a sort of closeness to that.
It's a
as well.
wonderful opera.
It's a fantastic opera,
Oh,
but
it is.
impossible.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like Parsifal. I mean, it's a great, great opera, but impossible.
And you've directed films as well, haven't you? The Ballad of the Sad Cafe, I think was...
Yeah, I've directed The Ballad of the Sad Cafe in 1991, and I've just finished shooting a film called About a Bell, which is a rather wonderful kind of fable-like film about a Catholic Syrian refugee whose family has been wiped out completely by Assad, his village, his church, all wiped out. And he's working in the gig economy in England, and on the top of a high-rise building, he suddenly hears a massive noise and looks down and sees a church being demolished, which absolutely seems to him appalling and catastrophic, and tries to stop it. It's all too late. But he discovers there's a bell in there, a 17th century bell, and he determines to save it and make sure that it's heard again. And that's the basic premise of the film.
There's something extraordinary about bells, isn't there?
Oh.
Because we live with them around us and don't really kind of think of them very much. And I remember Charles Hazelwood did a huge composition for bells in a city where he gets people in all the belfries to actually ring them at certain times as part of this piece of music. And I thought, it's extraordinary.
It is true. It's like the bells are like bagpipes. You just have to hear a note of it, and something stirs very deep within you. And I can't think why bagpipes would have that effect on me at all. I'm not Scottish. I don't,
I love bagpipes, I'll be honest. I'm not Scottish, yeah.
I remember going into the Edinburgh Tattoo some 20 years ago, and they have teams from all over the world playing and doing their manoeuvres and so on and so on. They hold back the bagpipes until it's twilight.
Right.
Just as twilight settles, suddenly you hear that sound. You just cry.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody I know just cries, and I'm nearly crying now. I just don't know why. I can't explain it.
There's something about them. I mean, just as a personal memory, going on holiday to Oban, going to a friend's house, and everybody had to perform. They had to recite a poem, sing a song, and then the headmaster of the primary school opened up his bagpipes, and this is in a small, bungalow lounge. Yeah. Oh my goodness! Pinned you against the wall. It was extraordinary sound.
It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, funnily enough, I directed a play about the Duke of Windsor, and he played the bagpipes.
I didn't know.
Corin Redgrave played him, and I said to Corin, look, I know this is a ridiculous question, but you don't happen to play the bagpipe. He said, I love playing the bagpipe. I have the most beautiful bagpipes at home.
Simon, it's been a fantastic 4 days reading this book.
It's been lovely.
You reading it, me sitting there. And I've so much enjoyed it. And thank you for doing this.
Great pleasure.
And just a little memory of you I'll have, I think, is many years ago I bought a church bell. And it's still sitting in my lounge on the floor, a huge 19th century.
Wow.
And I don't know what to do with it because it's so heavy.
Yes.
I hope your film
Yeah.
resonates everywhere.
Well, I hope it does too.
Simon Callow, thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil.
Achte wohl und lass mich sehen, bist du ein